Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community. I'm your host, Patrice Tsague. I'm here with good friends of ours. You guys are familiar with them, probably more Robert. You see him more often here in the community. But today, he brought his better half because we're talking about couples in business. Robert and Kay Lee Fukui. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
Thank you, Patrice, for having us.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and it's good to see I'm still in those videos.
You are still in the videos, man. You are forever in the Nehemiah archives. So Robert and Kaylee are here today because we're talking about the Couples in Business Global Forum that's coming up. If you've not yet signed up for it, registrations are now open. You can sign up for it. That will be in the month of February. So let me just make sure I give you guys all the facts for those of you who are, again, it's free to members. If you are a gold, silver, or diamond member, it's free to you. And if you are a bronze or not a member, it's $25. So February the 21st from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to have featuring Robert and Kay Lee Fukui. We're also going to have some special guest panelists. We're going to have Stephen and his wife Betty, JP and Jackie, and of course, Paula and Chris Harrington. And so they all will be there. You're going to hear just what does it look like to walk as a couple in business and to manage the dynamic between business and marriage. Robert and Kay Lee wrote this book called Tandem, and they'll be speaking on this. And this book will also be featured as a course, which, Robert, I understand that you're now reviewing it for proof, right? It's already done. You're going through it now. Yeah. Did our team did okay? Have you gotten it yet for review? They told me you
Friday.
did.
Yeah,
okay, got it.
So I have not delved into it yet, but
got it. So it's almost there.
Yep.
So it'll be available soon. For sure, it'll be up before the Global Forum. So before I bring them, I want to just read this so that you get a sense of and I'm not going to say a lot about them other than what's here, because I want them to kind of tell you more about themselves. So they've been married since 2016, and they're co-founders of I-61 Incorporated, a business consulting company based in California. And they guide married entrepreneurs in creating better work-life balance. And here in Nehemiah, we call it work-life integration, which is the same thing. And that's what's interesting about them is that they both know how to do it as entrepreneurs, also as in the corporate world, right? Because the corporate world has this on demand. I want to get into that a little bit today, Rob, if you don't mind. I'm going to start with your corporate career. I want to read. So, build a business, built a marriage is what they say. Win at both. On a tandem bicycle, two riders with different strengths can ride together, cover a lot of ground efficiently if they have the same destination in mind and communicate effectively. What a wonderful visual for couples. Sounds a lot like marriage, doesn't it? If you're an entrepreneur who has experienced the frustration of trying to balance your work life and your marriage life, only to fall behind in both areas, yes, you're not alone. You can achieve greater balance simply by taking actions together in tandem, as outlined in this book. Robert and Kay Lee Fukui, who have worked hard to resolve their own issues related to work-life balance, also consult other couples. They wrote Tandem to explain how to achieve and maintain that balance. Here are just a few ways you will benefit from their recommended strategies. Work smarter, not harder, to avoid regrets, frustrations, and burnout. Prevent and resolve conflict, whether or not you and your spouse work together. Set healthy boundaries between work and home. Increase your time margin and money margin. I like that one. Grow your business without working more hours and much more. Guys, welcome to the podcast. And my question to you guys is going to focus on these value propositions you gave here in this book. It gave a frame from the good question that I have for you guys. But before we get into it, uh, guys, tell me a bit about you. Anything other than what I've just shared. Now, Robert was vice chair Nehemiah Project, so he's been with us. He's also a certified trainer with us. And also to note, they're both donors on record. By the way, thank you so much for your support. You've been a donor here for almost close to 10 years. You've been supporting mine.
Yeah.
And they're also elite members, they're diamond members of the e-community. So anything else that that you want to share with the community?
Well, first, I think Kaylee should introduce herself since this is the first time they're hearing from her.
Yes, thank you, Patrice. So I'm a third generation entrepreneur. My great grandpa was an entrepreneur. My dad grew up in a family business. We had a lot of pluses, and there were some challenges too at the same time. My dad worked 6 days a week, so the business became the mistress. And it was really challenging on our family. And my dad's go to, which I think is true with a lot of entrepreneurs, is just put more time in when you want to increase your profits. So, as a child, you just want your dad to be home and play with you as opposed to being at work all the time. So, family ended up splitting, going two different directions, and it was really hard. And I also saw, too, as a child, that a lot of times businesses were having issues with the growth of their business, being able to be sustainable, making enough money. And yes, it's okay to make a profit, you guys, so that they can feed their family, that they can hire that person they need, which can change a community. So different things like that.
Wow. Before Robert goes ahead, I mean, you bring such a good point there. Third generation. So you know what it means for the child having parents in business who are not balancing it well, right? And actually, you actually said that your family, part of the split, was in part due to that. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, because my
Wow.
mom raised four strong-willed children, which, let's face it, that is not easy. And my
Yeah.
dad, I think sometimes he just wanted to get away from the house, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna work more. These kids are
That's right.
driving me crazy." That was kind of his
Wow.
escape. So
Wow.
yes.
So on the one end, there's this great benefit to the business, which is obviously the financial resource and so forth. But on the other end, not well managed, there's this other cost. And would you say, as the daughter, the cost it's not worth it, is it?
Yeah, no, I'd say it's not worth it. No amount of
Yeah.
money is worth it because
Yeah.
family is so important. And when the family breaks down, everything else tends to follow along with it. The
Yeah.
business, a lot of times as well, they're struggling because if you're not happy at home, it reflects on the business. It's hard to
Yeah.
decompartmentalize the two.
Oh, wow. Well said. Robert, anything else you want to add here?
So my parents weren't entrepreneurs. My dad was a pastor, but there's the same dynamic. I think even in seminary, I think they prepare pastors to sacrifice everything for the work of the ministry, and in doing so, they sacrifice the family for the sake of the ministry. And so I think culture kind of, and I think her and I and you, I'm sure I know your background and a lot of people's background, they grow up with this strong work ethic, which is definitely important and it's valuable. It's a great value. But there's a point where they feel like it's all work. And in order to achieve any amount of success, that they gotta sacrifice their personal life and their relationships. And I think that's where it starts, right? Is there's a mindset that's pervasive in culture that you got to sacrifice your personal life to gain monetary success. In the meantime, the health of us as a person, a whole, is deteriorating. And so, with that, what we need is more of a mind shift, right? It's God's way is renewing of your mind. We're not
Mhm.
to adopt world's culture, world's way of doing things. We have to adopt the kingdom way of doing things. And so, if you really want to have a thriving marriage, a thriving family, and a thriving business, you got to make some different choices and have a different mindset, have more of a kingdom mindset in how we go about doing that.
Oh, wow. I love that. Again, we're talking with Robert and Kay Lee Fukui, and they will be our guest speakers for the upcoming Global Forum. And this forum is an opportunity for you to hear from other couples and meet other couples who are in business together and from there learn what it looks like to, as their books say, work in tandem. That will be February 21st. And so if you want to register for that, just go ahead and sign up. Just click there and be a part of it. So before we get to the book, so you guys came from two different backgrounds, pastor and entrepreneur. You're right, Robert, almost similar in terms of the tension in the family. So how easy or how hard or easy was it for you guys to kind of come together in tandem, giving the different backgrounds?
Well, I think it was Kaylee suggesting I go to counseling about a month after I married her. Or not a month after I married her, a month after I met her.
And you were so excited about that.
We'd had about 3 dates up to that point, and she said,
Wow.
"Oh yeah, you should go to counseling."
Mhm.
Is that right? Now, what was it about? What was it about him? Was it because of his? Was it because of his pastoral background? Is it PK?
It was because Robert was previously married and he lost her in a car accident a week before Christmas. And
Oh,
I
wow.
remember people saying, "Oh my gosh, well, that's great. There's no ex-wife involved." And I said, "But he loved her and he would still be married to her if she was still alive." And I wanted to make sure that he still had room in his heart for me, that I knew he'd always love her, but I didn't want to feel like I was competing with a ghost. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I wanted him to go to find out where he was in the grieving process.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
smart.
yeah. So when she explained that, I said, "Okay, I don't want my past to be the reason why we don't move forward." So I agreed, went to counseling, and from after my first session, I remember coming. She lived an hour from me, and so she recommended her counselor, so I had to go travel an hour. So what I did was I timed it so I can be there, take the last appointment, and then I'd pick her up for dinner. And then she'd ask me, "So how'd it go?" And I
Because
said,
inquiring minds, ladies, we want to know how
so
it went.
I said, "It looked fine." So and she
Fine.
wants details, right? And
Mhm.
so after my second session, she's asking the same question, and I said, I just went through an hour, right, of this, and I go, I do not want to relive the whole hour, regurgitating everything that happened in this hour, right? So I suggested, why don't you come with me, and then you can
Oh.
get your questions answered directly from the counselor. And at first she's like, no, it's your time. It's your time. I said, yeah, but it may be my time, but you want to know what happened in my time. and so she finally said yes. And then, so what happened is it just turned into relationship counseling till we got married 2 years later. And we kind of
Wow.
worked through, a lot of the stuff that couples work through after they get married, finance, in-laws, vacation, how you raise kids. I mean, all the stuff, right, that happens when you're married, and it creates tension and creates conflict. Well, we worked it out before we even got married with a counselor. Talking about the different backgrounds and how do you navigate that in different cultures and just a different upbringing. So when, to answer your question about how we're able to come together with different backgrounds, different experiences, and how do you work well together, not just in business, but just in life, was counseling. It showed us that we're different people, and it's not about trying to change the other person, but it's how do you recognize that we have different ways of communicating and we have different personalities, and how do we not use that as a source of conflict, but make it so how do you utilize your strengths and how do you resolve issues? And understanding we just think a little bit differently, but a lot of times we're looking for the same result, right? And when you're married, we have the same goals in mind. We want to succeed in our financially, even in our house and family, all that. We have the major big goals we want to achieve together, but we get stuck in some of these little details that cause conflict. And so focusing on the big picture that we do have the best at heart for each other. We want each other to succeed. We want our marriage to succeed. Now let's figure out how to resolve this issue and not make it personal and not make it a competition, but make it, how do we work together? How do we resolve this issue so we can move forward together?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Kelly, what I love is that you were impressed, right? Because the challenge sometimes when couples are dating is overriding best practice because you want to go so fast, and as a result, you don't do the right things early. What was it about you that gave you that insight? Because that's very intuitive of you to be able to do that.
I was okay finding out little things, but I didn't want to I thought he had a big heart and I thought this is somebody that I could really care for. And I didn't want to
Mhm.
put everything into it and then find out he didn't have room in his heart for me. And I also saw what my parents went through in their marriage, and our family was not able to resolve conflict at all. We just walked out on each other. We would just abandon
Wow.
each other, get in the car, drive off, slam the door, walk out. And I did not want that kind of a marriage. I love my parents, but I didn't want that for myself. And when you're raised in certain environments, that's all that you know. And I thought, there's got to be more out there than this. And so those were some of the things that made me really want to go to counseling.
So, in a sense, what didn't work for your family with your mother and father, from based on that, it kind of informed you trying to make sure the same doesn't happen with you and your future husband. Is that?
Correct.
I love that. They say so. From our bad experiences, one or two things happen. Either we learn what not to do, or we learn what to do, and you should sure learn what not to do.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that
love
means
it.
you're having to go get help, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't know how to do it any differently. And I think I wish more people would go to counseling, like before they get married at the beginning stages and put a good amount of time into it because I think a lot of people wouldn't maybe they wouldn't get married or they would find out what those surprises are ahead of time and so they can make a better decision or just learn how to work together better.
I love it. I love it. Now let's get it. Well, actually, before getting this, one more thing. So, Robert, so before you were entrepreneurs, you worked a corporate job. You were an executive, highly demanding job for a long time. So, what was the dynamic like for those who are watching and listening, who are in professional life, right, versus entrepreneurs? So, what's the difference between, because, that also, oftentimes you have a high divorce rate for corporate executives because they're
Mhm.
always out there, the high demand of the job. So,
Mhm.
tell us a bit about the difference between entrepreneurship versus the high demand of corporate life and balancing that.
Yeah, the demands are pretty similar. It's just that the major difference is everything falls on you as an entrepreneur, right? As a business owner, you got to create, you're responsible for creating everything versus, as a marketing and sales executive, I was in charge of building business plans and executing on some sales strategies and all that. But everything didn't fall on my shoulders, right? We had a whole team and there's people above me and then below me to execute. And so, but as far as the pressure and demands, it could be pretty similar, right? And certainly I saw that early on in my corporate life when I was with Coca-Cola. That was my first job out of college. And I saw, 12-hour work days were like an expectation. It wasn't just a suggestion, it was an expectation. And you see people that have, had their whole careers there. And, a lot of them were in their third or fourth marriages, very unhealthy too, just physically as well as mentally and emotionally. They're making a lot of money, but, their life certainly wasn't healthy. And I saw that early. I was like, yeah, I don't want that. It's like, well, if that means I have to like make a little bit less money, fine. I want to, but I want to have a life. I want to be healthy. I want to have a healthy marriage. I want to have time to enjoy myself. So I was very cognizant early on in my corporate career to have better work-life balance. And it's interesting that when I was at Coke, we had in our branch, we had our branch manager, and then we had a region manager who also set up his office in our branch. And so he had kind of the San Francisco Bay Area where our branch was focused on just the South San Francisco Bay Area. But anyways, all that say is I saw two people with the same types of pressure, right, to achieve, but two different ways of looking at how to achieve not just business, but their life. So the branch manager was 12-hour work days. I mean, everybody's gone. He's still there till 8 o'clock at night, first thing there in the morning. And our region manager, who's above him, who's, obviously may achieve more than he has, 5 o'clock, he goes home. He wanted to be with his family. And I remember my branch manager making fun of him. Oh, there he goes. He's soft. He just can't work, whatever. And I'm looking at him like, yeah, but he's already achieved. He's already above you. He's obviously achieved past you. And yet, he doesn't have a problem going home, right, at 5. So I saw that dynamic right there in front of me. And I'm like, well, I want that. And he's making more money than the branch manager. So I'm like, he's making more money and he's got a life. So clearly we don't have to kill yourself to achieve financially and professionally.
Wow, I love it. What a good visual that the Lord pointed out to you. Again, guys, we're gonna have Robert and Kaylee are gonna be our guests at the upcoming Global Forum. Make sure you sign up, join us at the forum. We're gonna go even deeper. We have other couples share as well. Kaylee, what was the difference for you between when he was in corporate life versus now being an entrepreneur? What's the difference? To speaking to those who may be in either, what's the difference like for you?
Well, I know one thing. People, as soon as people found out Robert was leaving his corporate job, they would come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, are you crazy? You're going to let your husband leave? He's got all the benefits. He's got the car, insurance." And I'd say, you know
Even
what?
Patrice reminded me of that.
Yeah.
You sure you want to leave?
I never wanted to be the wife that held my husband back, because I've heard so many men say, "Oh, I really wanted to do this, or I wanted to do that, but my wife wouldn't let me." And I thought, I don't want to be that wife. And so when he said he wanted to leave, we prayed about it a lot. And I was on board with that. I even saw before we got married, him having his own business. He thought I was nuts. So the whole entrepreneur world, to me, I lived it. So I wasn't surprised when he said he wanted to do it. It's just, it was a transition, of course, that we had to work out, because he ended up working a lot of hours when he first left his corporate job. And then we had to balance our way through that.
Yeah. It's not always less work in business, is it? Sometimes it's more work. But what's interesting, Kaylee, so you saw the negative consequence of entrepreneurship with your family falling apart, but yet you were not afraid of your husband pursuing it. Could you reconcile the two for me?
I wasn't afraid because I saw the freedoms people had with
Mm.
their own business. You could make it what you wanted to be. I saw people going on vacations, and, not all of them were unhealthy families. Some of them I saw, they would go to all the football games or the baseball games, whatever. You just have to really be intentional about that. And so I like that part. I mean, we would go on family vacations every year, the same place. So there was a lot of pluses to it. We had a great clientele, customer base when I worked there. I got to know them all by the first name. I knew their dog's name, the pets, the children. I loved all that aspect of being able to do the little personal touches for people, to go out of your way for them.
Oh, I love it. The book, guys, is Tandem. They'll be speaking about this book during the upcoming Global Forum. We even turning into a course that will be available soon, that Robert and Kaylee kind of walk us through how to work in tandem. So before we land the plane, I want you to kind of address one thing here. Just give our viewers and listeners a little insight. So here you make a point of talking about working smarter, not harder, to avoid regrets, frustrations, and burnout. So what's one tip? I know they'll get a lot more when they come to the forum, but what's one advice? People are listening right and they're saying, I want that benefit. I want to be able to work smarter. I want to be able to not harder, to avoid regrets, frustrations, and burnout. So what's one tip that they can walk away with today to be able to walk that out?
Yeah, I can give you a little example. Is it kind of hits both work-life balance issues, profitability, sales, and all that, all wrapped into one. But when it comes to working smarter and not harder, it's about making different choices, and how do you get more output with the same amount of effort. And so, just say, for example, in sales, and as a consultant, I can have one client that's paying me $20,000, or I can have 20 clients paying me $1,000, right? And how much effort does it take to get that one client, whether it's a $20,000 client or a $1,000 client? A lot of times the effort is very similar to get that one client, regardless of the price. But yet I can just focus my time on one client. And if I get two clients, then if you look at the margin, it's different, right? It's not just time. So when you have one client at 20,000 versus 20 clients at 1,000, the time differential is also different. A lot of times these smaller paying clients are also more demanding than the higher paying clients. So it's like, do you want one client or you want 20, right? So you think about, how do I get more with less? So it will take me less effort to get the one client at 20 versus the 20 at 1,000. And so that's, making choices of, who's my target audience and how much do I charge, but it also goes into the time issue too. And if you're in like a retailer or a restaurant, for example, it's how do you get that one customer, instead of just buying 2 items, to buy that third item to add that dessert, right? So in one transaction, we're now almost doubled your profitability. So it's those little nuances that will help you work smarter, not harder. And essentially, it's basically how to get more margin. So not get more sales with more effort, but more sales and more profitability with the same amount of effort, if not less. And so that's just it's an example, as a teaser to think through, is just doing things a little bit differently, and how do you get more without putting more effort in.
Oh, I love that. That's a great insight. I mean, what I love about it is that you're improving the business, improving the quality of life, and improving the ability to have resources to have greater impact. It's like a triple bottom line, guys.
When you have more margin, not just profitability, but time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Serving one client
yeah,
versus 20, I've got more time now to really serve that one client really well. And what happens is they're really happy, and they're going to refer more business. And so it actually helps sales too, because you have more time to really just serve your customer.
I love it. As a matter of fact, Robert authored a seminar for us. It's actually a module in biblical entrepreneurship on the pricing and marketing, where you really deal with that. Guys, I mean, so much here. We're going to have Robert and Kaylee at the upcoming Global Forum. They're going to be teaching on this. There's a course. You can grab the book Tandem to kind of get knee deep into it, work smarter, not harder, prevent and resolve conflicts, set healthy boundaries between work and home, increase your time margin of money, your time margin and money margin, grow your business without working more hours, and much more. What's unique about the experience they both bring to the table is that Kaylee has understand the devastation of not properly balancing it from her own personal family. At the same time, she understands the reward of entrepreneurship, and they can bring both those dynamics to the table. Guys, before you leave, I do have one last question for you that I want you guys to just one last nugget. But guys, if you enjoyed our podcast and you want more, I encourage you to sign up for the Global Forum coming up. The exact date is going to be February 21st. You can sign up for the forum by clicking the link right there, or you can go to nehemiahecommunity.com/event, nehemiahecommunity.com, and go to the events page. And from there, you can look for the Global Forum. You can register and join us for that forum. And then from there, you'll learn all other kinds of resources. If you want to know more about Robert and Kaylee, they have a website. Guys, what web address, where do they want to go to learn more about you guys?
The best one's marriedentrepreneur.co. So marriedentrepreneur.co. And you can access the book and our podcast, Thriving in Tandem, as well. So that's the best place to start.
Awesome. Also, you can just go ahead and check them out. And of course, for those who are part of the community, they're members, so you can find the information there as well. Just go to the e-community platform. You can find information there as well. Your book, I'm sure, is not only available on our platform, it's also available on your site, but it's also available on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. You can also available there. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, I want you to share it. I know you know a couple who may be struggling or who are thriving and who you think you want to encourage them with this resource, go ahead, share it, post it on your Facebook, on your Instagram, share it on your LinkedIn. Friends, share with friends that which they love and enjoy. So share with them and invite them to the forum. Bring them with you.
Yeah.
We have enough space for all. Join them with you. If you want to know about the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship community, how we can come alongside you and help you in your business with training, coaching, or access to financing, you can just go to our website, Nehemiah Entrepreneurship, Nehemiah eCommunity, sorry, .com, NehemiahECommunity.com. They can learn about our training program, Biblical Entrepreneurship, Serve with Love, Identity and Destiny, or our coaching program, whether it's diamond coaching or customized coaching or access to capital or how to become a part of the community. Membership does have its benefit. We just crossed the 3,000 member mark, members from Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, North America. You can connect and engage with them and walk together in community. Guys, so before I let you go, and I'm going to start with you, Kaylin. So there's a wife or a soon-to-be married person watching, and they're saying, Kaylee, you just don't understand. It's easy for you to say you're married to Robert Fukui, right? He's
I don't know if that's easy.
he's like a Superman. I'm not married to a PK. Not married to, my husband
thing.
is not like your husband, and therefore we can't experience what you guys are experiencing. What advice would you give them?
First, I'd say pray together, you guys. And if your spouse doesn't want to pray together, then definitely pray for him or her on a daily basis. And I would also say there's nothing wrong with going to get some help, you guys. You know what I mean? Robert and I did counseling. We've done all kinds of coaching classes. I mean, it's pretty common, I think, in this day and age to go get help when you need it. And we love to be learning and growing. And let's face it, we can't all do it on our own. We need help.
I love it. So, Robert, somebody's watching this thing and they're trying to be in tandem with their mate. And they're saying, Robert, I don't have the skills you have. You're corporate executive, now entrepreneur, pastor's kid. You out of my league. Where do I start? How do I get there? And plus, I don't have a gorgeous, smart wife like your wife. If you knew my
Thank you,
wife, you
Patrice.
just know how it cannot happen, Robert. What would you say to them?
Yeah, obviously, whenever you say you can't, right, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
And so if you really want to grow, whatever it is, whether your marriage or business or both, like Kaylee says, go get help. I mean, Proverbs says, with many counselors you succeed. And the problem is a lot of people try to do it on their own. And that's the path to failure. As I look at my success over my career, investments, I've done our business and all that, I always had help. And in the areas where I failed in those same things, it's either I didn't get good counsel or I didn't listen to the counsel I got. Ego got into play and I just went forward my own way. But it is uncanny as I look back and all the levels of success I've had in different facets, even from school, like I said, to career, investments, and business. I've had good counsel. I took Biblical Entrepreneurship when I first launched my business. I wrote my business plan through BE and worked with you, Patrice. And so definitely good counsel. You got to get in a community like this, with the e-community. Get some good people around you. I mean, you can't say enough. And even in the corporate world, these CEOs, they had coaches. Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, these CEOs had coaches. And why? Because we all have blind spots. The one thing that every coach or consultant can do is just cover your blind spot. And if that's all they do is point out your blind spot, you're going to be succeeding a lot better than what you're doing and avoid a lot of pitfalls.
And be teachable, coachable too. You know what I mean? Sometimes people, like, they say they want help, but then they don't want to change at all. So you got to be open to it and do the work, do the hard work.
Robert and Kay Lee Fukui, authors of Tandem, soon to be a course, and they'll be our guests at the upcoming Global Forum. Make sure you sign up. By the way, we didn't address it here, but I want to address it when you come to the forum. Robert, you did something that we advise every entrepreneur to do before their launch. You prepared yourself, and I want to talk about that when you come back. What made it even easier for your wife to embrace it, because you've got to build some passive income. You just did some things that it'd be good to see others do, that I want to talk about when you come to the forum. So that's going to be on one of the questions I'm going to ask you guys to elaborate on. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Great.
So come and learn the tips on how Robert prepared himself before he launched, so that way, not only did Kay Lee feel comfortable, but they had a contingency plan just in case. And that's what really made it work. Well, guys, thank you for watching and listening. Let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that are under your care, and steward them in such a way that one day you'll hear those wonderful words, just like Robert and Kay Lee. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll now make you rule over much. God bless you. Thank you for watching and listening. Again, guys, see you on the 21st.